Do you want to tell us a little bit about what actually happened and how Keaton died?
Yeah. So my parents, many years before, had gotten a houseboat, and so every summer, all the kids and their kids would come, and we'd spend a week on the houseboat. So we raised the kids at the lake, and we very familiar with it, very safety oriented, all those pieces. But that summer we went on our trip, and there were some of his siblings were older and married, and so there were some family members that had to leave a couple of days before the trip was going to end. And so you take them into the marina, and then the day before, his mom was just feeling antsy. I remember saying, "I feel like I'm going to crawl out of my skin. I need to go. I can't stay."
Yeah.
She just had this "I need to go" feeling. It was just she couldn't shake it. And so there was another couple that was going to be leaving the day before the trip was ending, and so she decided to, or actually 2 days before, so she decided to go with them. And so she went out on the front deck of the houseboat and sat on the cooler there with Keaton. And she said, "Hey, Keaton, I'm going to go home today, and you can either go home with me or you can stay here." And she says that he kind of thought through it. He was like, "Oh, I could go home and play with my friend Wesley, and I could play with my Beyblades, and I could," just going through all the things, the reasons why he would want to go home. And then she said he just stopped and paused. "No, I think I'll stay." She was like, "Okay." So she went home that day. The next day, woke up, and there was the final couple that was leaving early.
Yeah.
So I got in the speedboat, took him into the marina, and I had this feeling of dread that I've never felt in my life. It was just this overwhelming feeling, and I had the word at the time. It wasn't looking back. I feel this dread, like this depressive, heavy, weighty feeling of dread, and I didn't know what it was from. And so went into the marina and dropped them off, and I called my wife and just said, I told her what I was feeling. I said, "I don't know what it's about, but I just have this." And so we talked through it. There wasn't anything to do, so I went back out. The kids wanted to go out and play, go tubing and whatever. And I just didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go out. And so we stayed in the houseboat, played some games, watched a movie. The afternoon passed, and finally, later afternoon, I thought, okay, this is the last day. We're leaving in the morning. I can't disappoint them.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. So I rallied myself and got the kids, went around tubing, and in the tubing, you're doing 10, 12 miles an hour, doing figure eights, creating some wakes. Keaton's older brother was back on the tube, and, you try to give him a bit of a fun tube ride, and I'm driving, and I'm, look back at the tube, look up front, we're going just back and forth. And I remember looking up, and Keaton, life jacket on, was sitting in the front. It's a deep V hole, so there's a nice seat there that's safe, and he's sitting next to his older sister. And I remember both of them kind of bounced over one of the waves, nothing unusual. I looked back up, and he wasn't there. And I was like, "Where's Keaton?" And his older sister said, "He just bounced out. It just happened." And in that moment, I remembered feeling a little bump. And hadn't registered it because of my attention on it. And so I spun the boat around really quickly, and we're looking for him, not seeing him yet. And then his brother was on the tube, and he started screaming out, "He's dead, he's dead, he's dead." And I dove in, got there. He was there, and the surrealness of it, it's no. it's CPR, the emergency measures. Get him and swim back to the swim deck on the back of the boat. And okay, got to get him up so I can see what we need to do for him. And so his older sister, she helped me get him up so that I could get up in and put a towel around him. And it's that absolute dissonance. This is not real. And the reality of it, sitting side by side and trying to know and then looking and knowing that he's gone. So I sat in the back of the boat, on the back bench, and there was an older cousin on the boat. I was the older daughter was over 18, but I was over. Anyways, the older cousin drove the boat back in. We saw a boat there at a place where there's reception. We pulled up to him and said, "We've had a fatality. Will you?" And it was like I was outside of my body. I watched myself say the words that I could not possibly fathom saying. And I said, we call the Rangers. And then we headed in. The Ranger boat met us. We took him in to the marina. The kids went back to the houseboat to tell my parents what had happened. And so, there in that small little medical center at the marina, the poor doctor was there witnessing, my grief.
Did you snap out of that, like out of person experience where, and I realize it's not necessarily an out of person experience. It was, you're still there, but you're almost, the reality of it's so weird. It's so weird. It's so weird to even explain. Mm-hmm. But so did you snap out of that at some point in that little medical center or?
Yeah. I mean, I was present.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, but it was so unbelievably not real.
Yeah.
I look at him and he was perfect.
Yeah.
He was perfect. And I just remember sitting and looking at him, how can this be? He's perfect. How can this be? This can't be. And I'm alone in the room with him and it can't be. And so, it was just a very unreal, and yet it's so intensely real. It's this very strange juxtaposition of the most unreal and the most intensely real thing that I've ever experienced. I remember exiting the room and going outside, and it was nighttime now, and looking up at the stars, feeling so small and powerless, and just realizing that there are realities beyond what all of my wishes, all of my hopes and desires. There are just realities. And realizing and as obvious as this sounds, it had meaning and impact to me at the time that we all come into this life through birth. Everybody comes the same, small variations, but we all come through birth. But our ways of leaving, we all will leave, but they are all so individual and so different. Mm. I know people who have also lost a child, and they're all so different. Some after illness, and mine sudden and unexpected, and they're just all so different. And there's no better or worse. There's to it, but they're just all so different. So yeah, that was one of the hardest moments. Also was there in the medical center. It was just the doctor, me. Center would have been closed if we went there, and after we got there, and I needed to call Kimberly, his mom, and the doctor handed me this phone, and I looked at him and I said, "What do I say?" And he looked at me and he said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which was the best thing he could have said, because there's no way he could, And so again, surreal. I don't know how I even said the words.
Do you remember that conversation?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
were you just like, hey, how's it going? Like, how did it actually start? Take us through that.
I called her phone and she didn't answer. And her mother lived with us. And so I'll try her. And so I tried her phone and I got her, and she answered the phone, and I said, hi. I said, are you with Kimberly? And she said, yes. I said, I need to talk to her. So she handed the phone to Kimberly, and they were at a store shopping.
Oh, gosh.
And she got on the phone. She's, cheerful. Hi. And I said, I don't know how to say this, but we've lost him. And she was like, what? And the first thought she had was that it was his older brother. That was just what came to her mind. No thought that it could be Keaton. I just don't know why, but that's just the thought that came to her. And she goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, Keaton, we've lost him. Just for me to picture what that must have been like for her, to hear those words. And a little detail about that. I mean, we're a blended family, and so Keaton was our one child that we had together.
Oh, wow.
And so, and she just said, oh my God. Oh my God. And of course, they just walked out of the store, and we talked, and I don't remember the next part. That's where my memory ends. I talked about, I gave her the details, and I don't remember the call ending. So that part's gone, but that was the phone call.
The story doesn't end here. This is just a small segment of the entire podcast. If you want to check out that full podcast, tap or click the screen here. YouTube also thinks you might like this video. Remember, subscribe, shine bright, and we'll see you in the next video.